Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're just going to wait for people to come in.
Hey, while people are coming in, maybe in the chat they should tell us where they're from.
Oh,
Yeah. Let us know where you're from. Yeah, I'll show you it's done. All right. Hello, hello. Okay, Patricia from Utah. Marco from Brazil. Nice.
I
Hari
want to go
Dutt is
back.
with us. Hari Dutt from Long Island City, New York. I know him. Maxime. We got Nicholas in
Miami.
Miami. Yeah, I know. I saw it. Raleigh. Yep. Got Dale from Raleigh here. Let's see. What else we got here? Got people from Site, Bulgaria. How awesome is that? Kansas City, hopefully. People from Princeton,
Awesome.
Concord. Oh, look at this. We're from getting, they're getting them all over the world here.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. This is amazing. Thanks everybody for joining us. This, I guess I should say, whatever time it is for you, but morning, afternoon, evening, even some of you out there in Europe and looks like possibly even Asia. So welcome. So today we're going to be discussing AI innovation for product managers and how to leverage AI technology to benefit your customers and users. My name is Rina Alexin. I am joining from Miami. So I saw there is another person out from Miami here. Not quite so sunny today. My name, again, Rina Alexin, CEO of 280 Group. I've been running the company now for the past almost 6 years, and we are focused on transforming product management teams to be their better versions of themselves. I am joined by Dean. Dean, why don't you give a quick intro?
Yes, hello. I'm Dean Peters, and I'm located right outside of Raleigh in a little township called Apex, North Carolina. I've been with the 280 Group for about almost 2 years now. I know it seems to feel like longer for some. And before that, I was 15 years in software engineering and then moved into product management for about 20 years. I've been across several different industries, many of which gave me opportunities to work with early forms of AI. In fact, I published my first AI algorithm in 1987, which is why, I am older than dirt, and I've seen and lived through more AI mistakes than many people here and survived to tell the tale. And my job here now is to send the ladder down to the next upcoming generation of product managers.
Thanks, Dean. You want to move on to the next slide? So we're going to do just a quick
Yes.
intro to orient ourselves in this webinar. First, for those of you who do not know, at 280 Group, what we consider ourselves is to be an outcome-driven partner. We want to help product teams build products that people want to buy and use. And the reason why companies work with us is because we offer a holistic solution with our consulting, training, and coaching services. We customize and tailor our programs to our clients' needs, and they are backed by our deep bench of invested experts. As you see, Dean here is one of them. And we love what we do. I think that is something that is missing from the slide, but we really love what we do. Next slide, please. For this webinar, just a couple of housekeeping items. First, please ask questions. So we want this to be interactive, engaging, not just Dean and me talking the whole time, though we can do that. First, I want to answer the most popular question we get is, can I watch this later? And the answer is yes. We will be sharing a link so that you could watch the recording of this webinar after the webcast is over. I do want to call out that we also want to hear from you. So I'll do a reminder at the end of this webinar. We want to hear from you. What other topics in AI and product management do you want to learn about next? So feel free to write those in chat or in the Q&A button. We will take that into advisement as we create more content for our audience here. But also, I'll be taking a look through chat throughout this webinar, and we want to be answering your questions live. So anything that's top of mind, please feel free to ask. And I'll figure out why I can't talk today. All right. After this webinar, please connect with us also on LinkedIn. We're going to be sharing a link for you to do that. You can also use the QR code. Our LinkedIn group is a place where you can connect with your peers and share best practices. We also post our content and material there. So please, please, after this, do not be alone. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Now, Dean, over to you. Why don't you introduce the agenda for today?
All righty, let's get started. All right. So we did our introduction. And hello, Mike. Hey, Dale. Thanks for being on Apex. We'll catch up later. We want to talk about AI's impact on product managers and their products. So we're talking about how does this impact you, your role, the role of your product, and we're going to get into more of that. From that, we're going to talk about building an AI strategy, and it's going to be building it around user empathy. So it's not just picking a technology or using hope as a strategy. We're going to show you how to build a strategy based around user empathy for AI. We're going to show you how you can formulate that strategy by learning from analogous playing fields and winning plays. If you don't know what that means, you will by the end of this webinar. We're going to show you how to validate and socialize your AI initiatives. Because even though you may have a great strategy, you still got to get it funded, you still got to get it backed. And then finally, we're going to introduce our new AI for Innovation for Product Management class. And after that, Q&A, where you get to stump the chump and ask me questions, and pretty much ask me anything here. All righty. Let's set the tone for this. A HiPPO, and if you're not familiar with the term HiPPO, it means highest paid person's opinion. In fact, we have a picture here from real life, well, AI, of a PM responding to the highest paid person's opinion. And imagine the HiPPO walks into your backlog planning and bellows, drop what you're doing and add generative AI to our product pronto. How are you going to respond? So in the chat, tell me how you're going to respond to the HiPPO stampeding into your backlog and telling you drop, stop, and roll on generative AI in our backlog tomorrow. All
Oh,
right, see,
okay.
Bruce has one. What are we trying to achieve with the Gen AI feature? I like that. Thank you, Bruce. Who else has got to come here? What? Why? Thank you. Laugh and stay out of my dev team's backlog. I like that one. Why? Yeah, thank you, Hari. Nicely done. Oh, let's see here. Design thinking. Why before that? Oh, this is great.
I
Well,
have one here from Gilbert. What have your customers asked for specifically?
oh, this
Okay.
is great.
Yeah.
So it looks like we just keep putting them in here because we're going to collect these. But these are great. All right. And I'm thrilled to see that we're saying like, oh, hold on a second here, slow your roll before we get into, the how. Can we talk a little bit about the what? And with that, we're going to take our first poll because I know from talking to a lot of you out there that this is a situation that's actually happened. So what this poll is asking is, how real is our Gen I obsessed HiPPO scenario to you? Did it happen this time last year? Did you get asked for 2024 planning? Somebody asked you about it a few weeks ago. It hasn't happened to me yet. And here's one that I like to tell people when I teach dangerous animals is like, by the way, sometimes in product, we are the HiPPO. So pick one.
Yeah. Do I get to confess that I've been the hippo a few
We've all
times?
been the HiPPO, all right? We've all been the HiPPO.
Do the thing I want.
We've all, yeah, right? Why isn't this done now?
Yeah. All right.
All
We
righty.
seem to have a lot of answers. It looks like everybody's just about experienced this use case.
Yeah.
Except for I think 33 people said it hasn't happened to them yet.
Yeah, about a lot, about 30, yeah, about 30%. So about 70% of you have experienced the charge of the
Mhm.
AI loving obsessed HiPPO. So nicely done, and thanks for answering that poll there. All righty. Okay, let's move on. So with 70% of us up against that wall and 30% in the not yet, but maybe category here, how do you survive a disruptive innovation? Or maybe I should say, how do we survive and thrive? Okay. And you notice I didn't say AI, I said disruptive innovation. Um, as I mentioned, I'm older than dirt. So I've seen a few disruptors come along. All right. Um, and some of them were sort of meh, and some of them were like, oh my goodness. As soon as I was actually on a plane coming back from Saudi Arabia and teaching there, when I read about this, I was sitting next to a person who was actually a professor teaching AI. And I said, what do you think? He told me it was a flash in the pan. I told him that this was probably an earth, what do you call it? An earth cratering paradigm shift, like a meteor hitting the earth. We didn't agree. So for 11 hours, we didn't talk after that. But nonetheless, give me a second here. How has generative AI, how has this disruptive innovation of generative AI impacted your role as a product manager? How has it impacted your product leaders? How has it impacted the role of your product? How has it impacted your product strategy? And how has it impacted the role of your customer? Because everything is changing on this. All right. I think we're seeing a lot of change out in the market. I think, Rena, you had put something
Yeah.
up there. We'll talk about that later. I think you've been posting a little bit there, and we're seeing all sorts of change. I know you've been having conversations with a lot of
Oh,
customers who are like, this thing is, everything's different now.
yeah, I want to share that I've been talking to. So I like to spend as much of my day as possible talking to product leaders. And recently, I've been asking them the question of how is AI going to be changing the role of the product manager? And I have had a number of different responses. Some of them believe that this is going to unlock new kinds of testing. So product managers may be expected to know how to prompt enough to code. I think that was a common answer. But in general, this is coming. It's already here. So we need to know how to react to it and respond to it, adapt and help it increase our success in our careers.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I appreciate you sharing that because I've been talking to a lot of people. If you've gone to any AI product management agile meetups here in Raleigh here, I've been bending your ear over the past year on the impact of AI. That's how I know the HiPPO scenario is the real deal. And my advice to you is it when the HiPPO does charge in. All right. And you ask that question, how do I even know AI is going to solve the problem? And I've seen that in the comments here. I think Gilbert had something like that in the questions
Mhm.
here. And I think Hital had the same thing in the Q&A here. My advice to you, keep calm and focus on the problem space. All right. Yes, that was AI generated. Um, but keep calm and focus on the problem space. And start shaping your strategy. Start mapping the customer's pains, gains, and jobs to be done. And when you do that, I want you to prioritize on underserved needs. So we all know if we haven't learned how to do that, that means just basically mapping out what is my customer trying to get done? What type of job are they trying to get done functionally? What sort of social job are they trying to get done to help elevate their position? What sort of emotional job are they trying to get done? And so AI certainly can help with these, but first we need to know the customer's pains, gains, and jobs to be done. And from that, we need to find those opportunities in the form of underserved needs. Something I can do cheaper, something I can do faster, something I can do more elegantly. Once you've got those opportunities, then you're in a position. And here's so everybody knows this top two parts. Not everybody, but most people. But here's the part that's maybe new to you. Your next step in shaping your AI strategy is picking an AI playing field to explore. Now, what do I mean by AI playing field? Don't worry, I got a slide for that. Identify analogous plays in the wild or in real life. We'll be talking about that in a second. Then rapidly validate your hypotheses. So here's a little plan here on how you can quickly shape an AI strategy when that HiPPO comes in here. So you're not in a position of, hey, let me go to the engineers, all right? And, like I said, let me go to the engineers and say, hey, what do we think we do it? Because what are they going to do? They're going to talk about like, well, let's think about using Lambda. Why? Because, they're engineers. They're thinking about the how, not the why, not the who. All right. You're talking to UX. They're going to talk to you about the interface. And this is not casting shade on them. This is just suggesting that It's your job to get everyone reeled back into the customer's pains, gains, and jobs to be done. So let me talk about those key playing fields first. First of all, understand when we talk about generative AI, it is not a thing, a singular thing here. I think one of the things that, especially upstream as we try to manage up, when they talk to us about generative AI, they think they may not understand that it is actually this tapestry of several forms of AI that have been woven together. So generative AI has at its core a large language model, but it also has natural language processing cooked in. It also has deep learning cooked in, usually has robotics cooked in and reinforced learning, all these other areas. So, and they're starting to add computer vision to some of these as well. So you're starting to see all these different elements of that. Now, so don't worry about what that technology is, but understand that each of those technologies evolved to solve sets of problems. If you look at the problems they were trying to solve, and if you look at some of the problems generative AI are trying to solve, it comes across a couple of vectors here: tactical activity versus strategic workflow, and optimizing processes or assisting users. So, in general, and clearly not every case fits neatly in the boxes, and there may be some other outliers here. But in general, if you look at the population of AI solutions out there, they are either involving themselves in task enhancements, where they improve the efficiency and quality assurance of a process, or they're offering system improvements, where they're offering predictive accuracy or risk mitigation, again, in the terms of a workflow. If you look at other forms of AI, they're dealing with that customer experience. So they're assisting people at a task level with content generation, conversational interactions, and quite a few other items here that we could add to this chart. And then finally, and this is the area that I've spent a lot of time with augmented intelligence, where it provides collaborative efficiency as though you work as a team and helps you with your decision support. So, what I suggest to people is as you look at your pains, gains, and jobs to be done, as you think about your opportunity solution here, where does it generally land? All right. Does it land somewhere over here in the system improvements quadrant? That's fine. It could be task, but mostly it's here. Just pick one for now and figure out where is that landing. And it's important. And here's why it's important here. You pick one of these playing areas to position your product first as an experiment. We're not going to build it yet. Then we want to learn from analogous plays in real life. Task enhancement here. With the task enhancements and the system improvements and the augmented intelligence and the customer experience here, we have these different examples. So, for example, Klarna. I think Rina, you posted on LinkedIn about Klarna here on task enhancement here. I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, this is just came out recently where Klarna posted that they were able to leverage generative AI to do the work of something like hundreds of support agents in multiple languages, and they found a lot of efficiency, not just in terms of not having as many support staff needed to address the needs of their market. But the questions were answered with less time, I think 2 minutes instead of 11 minutes, and they had a lower repeat rate. So the use case for businesses and for users, it's there. It's just finding the
Yeah.
right one, to Dean's point.
Yeah, and to people who are concerned about it replacing jobs, my understanding is they're going to take a portion of those 700 and turn them into level 2 support. So now you've got talented people who are able to provide a lot more value from their
Mhm.
knowledge work. Now, by not having to do some of the level 1 calls. There's some other type of these, and you see these every day. So, for example, another task type would be just OpenAI's ChatGPT. It could be Grammarly Business that you use for your spell check here. Descript has this wonderful audio product for managing podcasts, taking out all the ums here. Optimizely does some things with that. There's other products that we use. For example, Expedia has a trip optimizer that helps us. And my point is not to copy them, but to learn from these plays that are similar to your opportunity See what you can learn to bake into your strategy. So the reason why I say pick your playing field is because if you try to look at try to boil the whole ocean, you're going to look at so many different implementations, you're not going to have time. Now, if you happen to look at in tasks and realize there's nothing there for me, you can move over to like system improvements or wherever. So, for example, we had the example of Amazon with proactive and preemptive order routing and then channel partners. In fact, they've got all sorts of AI at the task level here. But the point here is that you want to look at systems like that. You want to look at systems like Salesforce's Einstein, which automates data discovery. You have products like Otter that help you with with recording and what do you call it, voice to text. You have some other products out there that you may be familiar with as well. I would imagine, in fact, if you could think about some of these products, put that in the chat that fit into some of these categories.
And Lloyd
And you,
Hayden did ask in the
yeah,
chat, Dean, it's like, can it be all four topics? I think, over time, yes, but I think to Dean's point right now, you don't want to boil the ocean. You want to
yeah,
identify exactly what is the specific use case and start there, especially if you're at a company that hasn't used AI before. You're going to have so many learnings along the way, and trying to
yeah.
do it all at once is not going to be effective.
Yeah, and here's I agree with that 100%. And I'll add to that. If you try to do all four at once, your engineers are going to build you so much complexity, you're not going to be able to scale. All
Mhm.
right. So pick an area first, pick a playing field, pick an area that best suits you, land and expand. Even if you're an existing product, I would suggest find a place to land and expand. All right. Uh, Otherwise, you try boiling the ocean, and your engineers will do their best job, and it's not their fault, but they are going to build a lot of technical debt. Right. So again, find the playing area that you want to get started the conversation. You don't have to end the conversation here. You might find in your discovery that you're in the wrong area, and that's fine. Right. Learn from winning products here. And once you've done that, you're going to sit there and start using that to frame your strategy. But before we talk about that, we got another poll. So let's get that poll loaded up here and see where some of you people are, perhaps on where are you positioning your current AI winning play? And it could be that you're not sure, or it could be that you got a place for it.
So, Dean, we have a question. Somebody posted anonymously. Where does field service help lie? Helping with troubleshooting.
I think that, yeah, that's interesting here. It could be argumented that it's a workflow. I'm going to say it lands in task enhancement. So I'm going to say it's in quad 3 for myself.
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar to the use case we're talking about with Klarna with support
Absolutely.
inquiries. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say
Yeah.
target.
I think, yeah. So again, it can be either, it depends on how you look at the world and how your organization looks at the world. Um, but yeah, I think, pick that playing field. But I believe with that particular one, I think it lands in quad 3.
Hmm.
Again, I'm
All
not trying
right.
to. Yeah, so how are we doing with the polls here?
I think we have a pretty good. So I'm going to end it and share the results.
Wow, look at that. We got a
About
nice.
nice spread, like you're saying. Yeah, 30% task enhancements and 30% customer experience. So focusing on those two, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm actually really encouraged to see that we have a good mix, and that, like I said, so as you start shaping your strategy here, all right. So, and to your point, I love that question. Can it be all four? Probably in the future, down line. But initially, or even with an existing product here, you pick one of the playing fields. Let's say we go with augmented intelligence. Let's say we want to do a coaching system for bank tellers, where instead of having to compete only on bank loan, what do you call it, interest rates, they can compete on the lifetime value of the loan. And so there's this bank teller who now has AI looking through gobs and gobs and pounds and miles of data very rapidly and says, here are 3 loans that are competitive with the interest rate. Even though you can't beat them on interest rate, you can beat them on lifetime value of the loan. You are the human sitting across from the other human. Here are your 3 choices. And so, if let's say I had that was an idea I wanted for a play, all right, how would I, without having to spend a lot of money, because you can burn a lot of money fast, how would I validate that idea? What is the smallest and fastest way I can validate the idea? Which means I've got to define some key metrics for success on my play. I've got to start with tiny acts of discovery. All right. I was talking to that with my Agile class today. I was saying, look, sometimes you can just go to the customer with a screenshot, 4 different views of the same screen, and say which one makes the most sense for the job you're trying to get done. How do you measure incremental impact? And how do you adjust based on your learnings? This is why I always tell people in my classes and the other instructors here as well. It's like building the product is the most expensive way to discover whether you're on the right path or not. So what can we do first? Before, how can we validate our idea? How can we get people to tell us the baby is ugly until we get it right here? And so this is where we avoid what do you call it? Burning through all our runway fast here. I don't know. Do you have any other point you wanted to add to this, Rena?
Yeah, well, actually, I have a question here that's related to this from Hital. Is if they launch an AI product and let's say the first iteration comes up with metrics that are not the best, you're not quite
Hmm.
hitting where you
Sure.
want to go, but then it increases and gets better over time because the model learns. Then how
Okay.
do you set expectations in terms of, within that loop of improvement?
Yeah.
Uh, where
He's
does that?
talking about the zero data
Yeah.
problem here. All right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's a tricky beast that, to tame here. Yeah. I think, you know, I get your point here on that, Hatal. I think what I want to talk about first is we want to make sure that the problem we're solving for the person is the right thing. In other words, we have an idea that the model will make it happen. Can we get some early indicators that we're actually answering the right questions for our customer, that we're actually solving the right problems for them? All right. We know that we're going to have a zero data problem here. So we are going to have to preach a little bit of patience. But do we know at least it's worth waiting for that data to start showing up? So that's what I would optimize validating on. Not so much that, hey, I can't tell you if the model's, is pristine. Models are always going to get updated, or at least models should be in a situation where they can be adjusted based on that type of feedback. But even before we build the model, you know, should we invest in building this model? Is the model going to answer the right questions for our customers and for our business?
Yeah, and Dean, I think the point we're making throughout this presentation is that the core product management skills, whether you're building a non-AI product or an AI product, they're the same. We always need to start with these fundamentals, and you need to test as cheaply as possible. The only thing maybe I would also add, and I think we're going to get into it later, is also understand the context of your organization. Again,
Yes.
if
Yeah.
you are building an AI product, an organization who's never done it before, then it's like, is your organization ready? There are probably operationally things that you might need to think about that other teams do not, around, costs and platforms and talent. Even like, do you have the engineering talent that can help implement some of this? So there's other components here, but these are definitely the best places to
Yeah.
start.
Yeah. And so pick your playing. So you've
Mhm.
you figured out your problem, you found your opportunity, you've picked your playing field that you're going to experiment with first. You found some plays that you find are interesting. Your data scientists will love you for framing it that way. And then you're going to validate these ideas. All right. Now, here's some of the things that happen outside of your organization you need to be aware of, because nothing kills hope like a strategy, or nothing kills a strategy faster. I remember at one organization, I came in there in January 3rd of 2020. They told me I had to, create a strategy, a vision, a roadmap, and get a $5 million budget to build this machine learning model to match patients to what do you call it, clinical trials. And so by March 10th of 2020, I had this beautiful roadmap. I'd gotten the funding all approved. Everything, we were going to start on St. Patrick's Day. We were going to celebrate and kick off on St. Patrick's Day on March 17th, 2020. All right. And this is why I want to talk about external factors. And you'll notice, for some of you who've been around product management, yes, we did shamelessly steal from Pastel, because what do I need to watch and what do I need to act on are the two questions you need to answer. Regulatory changes, changes in administration. Hey, Sam Altman, look what happened to him, and think about the issues that caused there. Economic issues here. The price tag on scaling AI. All right. If you think, some of the costs, some of the services you're using now are expensive here. Wait till you see the bill for on some of this. All right. What is there a workforce that can make it happen? Is your organization again in that position? There's social distrust of AI among some sectors here. There's impact of bias, all right, that we've seen recently in the news here. So we have all these factors. There's technological challenges or technological things happening. All right. There's a company, Grok, GROQ, not the not the what do you call it?
Elon
Elon Musk
Musk.
version of this. Yeah, yeah. This is FA, which is a processor that handles the chat part of the Chat GPT at blazing speed. Here, just got about 2 billion, I think, in venture. That's going to be a game changer here.
Mhm.
Discoveries on our models here. How about environmental? Limited processing materials, all right, our limited capacity or energy consumption. And then, of course, the people in our compliance office are going to want to make sure, that you're obeying laws, that you understand the nuance between a local and a federal law here, and that you understand that you're including data privacy. So make sure these are on your plan, because then you're in a position of socializing your great idea. In fact, that's we like to say here is you get to try to tell people, you try to, above you, who work, what do you call it, who work parallel to you and work below you, you have to convince them if the orange is worth the squeeze. All right. Who do I need to get? So as you socialize this, you need to paint the vision. That's why I say start with the person, the persona. Tell the story of Marty or Maria or Karthik or whoever that person is at the middle of that, and tell them how AI is going to improve their lives. Make a case for it based off these playing fields. So as you learn from these other plays, are those other plays lowering costs? Are they increasing revenue? Are they nourishing the business model? Or are they optimizing the operating model? Do they address the risks transparently? We just talked about that. Do you have a plan for change management? Because change is going to come. And have you considered using generative AI to help you frame your messaging?
Yeah, and I think we have a bit of a demonstration for this. I
Yes.
know Irfan asked if we would get a chance to look at 280 Group's built products. So 280 Group, we provide training and consulting services. We will share a little bit about our AI course, but first, Dean's going to also share some ways that you could be using this technology in your day-to-day.
Yeah. So let's say I've got this beautiful strategy. I've got my strategy framed here. Now, when we teach, and thanks for that, Arena. When we teach, we actually teach using case studies here. If we're teaching a public class, we'll use a case study like pet care on demand. If we're doing private, we'll find a case that relates to your organization. So here's a case study here, and we've just put a synopsis in, a vision in, a tagline, and a positioning statement. And then I asked it a few questions. So I said, hey, look, just give me 5 bullet points. And I put this into Gemini. I put this into ChatGPT. We can make that a little larger. And I put this into Claude. And so I think I got good results. And I've created a session context. So I want to socialize my ideas to my management using the Amazon working backwards process. Part of that process is communicating via a press release and via a FAQ. But before I can do that, I need personas. So what have I done? I've gone ahead and created a personas template that I'm now going to ask Gemini to go ahead and build for a user and buyer. And I'm going to ask ChatGPT to do the same. And I'm going to ask Claude to do the same as well. All right, away we go here. Let's see what happens here. Spinning. Who's going to win? All right, so there's my user persona, Sarah. So I got a user persona, and there's my buyer persona. Let's see how. And our system. Oh, look at that. I hate it when it does that to me. Well, ChatGPT, you just look bad on a demo. All righty. Oh, I think this is Claude 3, by the way. It was definitely worth the $20 a month there. Yeah, definitely doing good here. Let's go ahead and regenerate that. All right, so we see that we got our different personas. And now with our personas, we can go ahead and generate our FAQ and our press release to do the to go ahead and socialize our ideas. So let's go ahead and put this prompt in here for an FAQ. Nope, it's still writing. Okay, that's what you get for being late. All right, we'll go here, put that in here. So now it's going to generate for us a vision of the future. There it goes. And it's writing this. And if you're familiar with the Amazon working backwards process, you use the press release to communicate the idea of the outcomes, to draw a glorious picture of the future, both in an exciting press release, but also in the form of an FAQ. And let's see, it's doing that. Good one there. And now I can put this in here. So ChatGPT will do that. And so you can see that now we're getting an FAQ. And it's following this template here. You'll notice I wrote it in Markdown. And that way I have consistent formatting. And I make, so for example, my FAQ, I make sure all my bases are covered. General information, key stakeholders, potential customers, sales and
So
marketing, engineering.
yeah, so Dean, we're getting a couple questions right now in terms of your process for prompting.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to be able to get to the details here,
Yeah.
but
I'm not going to
uh,
be able to get to that. So we probably
yeah.
need to have another conversation, but that maybe we need to have that conversation in another webinar. All
Yeah,
right.
I think
Yeah,
we definitely can. If you could give a high level, what are some maybe just three bullet point best
sure.
practices to consider when you're writing prompts?
Sure. So I like writing them in Markdown. Okay. That gives hierarchy. I like going ahead and it's by using Markdown, I give it a hierarchy. If you'll notice, I've got these brackets here. ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude all interpret those as fill in the blanks. And you'll notice I started in a context block. I give it all the templating, and then I put the question at the end here after, and then just ask my questions. Notice how I ask those questions based on the current session content, given the business outcome. Notice I gave it the business outcome of 1 million ARR, given the product outcome of 10,000 people serviced. And thinking like a product manager, please provide me a future thinking. So you can see how I structure, and all my prompts are structured like this. So hopefully that gives us a little bit
Yeah.
of clarity on that process there.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Bruce
Yeah.
does ask, how does an AI generated PRFAQ compare to a human created one? Is it weird
So,
or
so,
logical?
so here, yeah. So here's
Yeah.
here's what I teach in my classes here. Are any of my, when it comes to this, comes to the information we generate here, is this information, good enough to hand to my manager or present? No, absolutely not. Do not use any of these tools as a source of truth. They are ready for you to have a conversation with your team. So if I were to generate a press release, I would go to some of the other product managers on my team saying, hey, look, I generated it based off of this context. Tell me if this thing is, on target, where it needs help, where we need to modify it, where we think there might be some hallucinations we need to correct. So don't use it for a source of truth. Remember, I said scaffolding and drafting were the words I used. So this is creating a scaffolding of the personas, and it is creating a draft of the press release and of the FAQ. It means you have to have human conversations afterwards, right? So, and you'll hear me preach that, ad nauseum.
I have here for Zayev Abrams in the chat. Another trick is to have the AI criticize itself. I have
Oh,
seen that work. Yeah.
here's a human MOE con. Have
Yeah.
have Claude criticize what ChatGPT did, and then have Gemini criticize what Claude did. And just have them argue among themselves. So
In using these tools, Dean, I know somebody also asked, have you found any one of them to be more consistent in giving you good outputs?
depends on which day and how much
Hmm.
they've updated.
Yeah.
I've had some days where I've walked in and ChatGPT is just, well, suboptimal. But here's my point again. It's It's less about that. The reason why I got good results with the prompts was because I went ahead and told it what the business outcomes were, what the product outcomes were, what the human element was, the pains, gains, and jobs to be done, the opportunity were. And then I asked it, draw me personas. Then I asked it, so it doesn't really matter. I could have just said, draw me a persona. The fact that I gave it that context of the problem I'm trying to solve for my business and my business strategy, that was more important than how I format the prompt. All right.
Yeah, we're going to get to more questions at the end. So please continue to
Yeah,
provide questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
Q&A at the end. And
Yeah.
like I said, that's where you get to go. All right. So let me ask you this question here. A hippo walks into your backlog planning and bellows, drop what you're doing and add generative AI to our product pronto. How do you respond? Do you keep calm and focus on the problem space? Do you feel the customer's pains, gains, and jobs to be done? Do you stake out an AI playing field to start exploring? Do you borrow ideas from winning plays within those playing fields? Do you prepare for the unknown unknowns by using a little pastel analysis? Do you socialize the outcomes using a blueprint like Amazon working backwards? And then finally, do you build on tiny bets for big wins? Because the next step is, how do I build small? How do I focus on less to deliver more? And how do I uh, build in a way where I don't break the bank, or either through cost or through complexity here?
And something else that you could do, of course, and we mentioned it at the beginning, but today we are also launching our new course on AI innovation for product managers. This has
Yes.
been
So excited about this.
Oh, so yes, I'm so excited. I know Dean has been absolutely instrumental as one of the authors of this course. As part of this course, you've kind of experienced a little bit about some of the magic and some of the questions we're trying to answer in the course, but we offer a framework for you to assess different AI plays. You get to practice with that. You get to learn from different use cases. There is some prompt engineering as well. And at the end of the day, you have a workbook and a plan to present to your leadership on how do you want to go about incorporating AI into your strategy. Is it the right strategy? And how do you plan to experiment and validate so that you can provide the most benefits to your customers, your users, and your business? So really excited about today.
I
Our
know, right?
first our first cohort is launched on April 1st and 2nd. I think we have
No
Roger
fooling.
teaching it. I know we have several other classes already scheduled. So if you go on our website or use the QR code, that will direct you there. Yeah, and now we can go to I think our final poll.
Oh, yes, our final poll starting today. Starting today. What will you do differently? Let's lock and load that poll and see what happens. What will we do differently starting today? By the way, we'll be able to answer some questions here along the way.
Yeah.
All right. So we got our, is our poll up?
I think it's coming. Here it is.
There it is.
Uh,
Starting
and
today, what will you do differently? And then
all
after the
right,
poll, you can ask me all sorts of crazy questions.
we got a lot, Dean.
I know.
So
I
are
got
you
too
going to
many.
stay calm and focus on the problems, pick a playing field, learn from the analogous examples in real life, keep an eye out for external influences, or consider signing up for our AI course where you can dive deeper into all of these topics? Okay, I think we have quite a number of people who have answered. I'm going to end the poll, and about 43% are going to stay calm and focus on the customer problems.
Thank you. I feel I can sleep tonight. Our job, we have, mission successful.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through some of the questions that people have asked. I also want to encourage you again, if there are topics or just things that you want to learn whether it's in AI or whether it's in product management, please feel free to also send a comment or a question. We really want to hear from you what you want to learn most. All right, so first question from Christine, similar to something that you showed with the press release, is how can we use AI to determine underserved needs that we have not yet discovered?
So yeah, I think there's some interesting ways to do that here. One of the things I didn't show is sometimes before I go to ChatGPT, before I go to Gemini, or before I go to Claude, I'll actually go to Bing because it's real time, and I'll start asking it questions about the market. I'll start asking and saying, "Hey, using the best US Census data available, can you tell me?" I'll say, "Hey, using data on some type of industry, well, let's say, pizza channel partners here. What can you tell me about how many pizzas are sold within a given area, or how many pets, or how many veterinary clinics do we have in a particular demographic?" So we can use these other tools that we can then take what they provided and then feed those into other tools to go ahead and say, like, "Oh, by the way, here's the US population, or here's the population in the EU, here's the number of whatever." So now you can start to shape your total available market, and you can start asking some questions based off of that data. So there are ways of doing that. There's all sorts of open data out there as well that you can explore. If you're trying to solve particular problems in the areas of workflow, there's all sorts of data that's available here, and you could take a tool like Claude and actually just throw at it, hundreds of pages of data, and ask it to do that. I think with the GPT, you can use its a code interpreter, and it'll actually give you I think an
Mhm.
R notebook, basically playback, so it can help you do some data analysis. So, what are some ways of doing it? The same way you do it in real life, just faster and using more data available to you. So we're not changing, what you do. We're just amplifying and augmenting what you should have been doing all along.
Yeah, I think
So
the key point here really is that do you have the data that maps out what you're trying to ask AI to
yeah,
solve for you?
right,
Because if you
right.
just ask it directly, I don't think it's going to get you to what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much of it, I did a fun little, custom GPT back on Christmas to generate
Mhm.
Hallmark movies. And I went and collected all sorts of movie data,
Mhm.
and I collected data about what was it? Oh, story plot lines and all sorts of stuff about Hallmark movies and movie generation there. And so by the end of the day, you could use that custom GPT to go ahead and create a script, or a movie poster, or some other things based off of actual data of actual film titles and synopsises that they had. So again, even from something as silly as that, I still had to go and grab data and do what I do normally in product.
Thanks, Dean. So we have a question here from Gilbert, who I hear is one of your former students, Gilbert Hammer. He's asking, how granular do you think a product manager or owner should get into the core AI technology? And is there a delineation between the product manager and AI technologist?
You know,
Uh,
it's
yeah.
it's an interesting question here. In fact, yeah, our friend Jason Knight we're joking about that over the term AI product manager here. I actually think that we all need to become product managers who are AI aware. That's why in our class I talked today about very quickly about the different layers, the tapestry that is AI. We do need to become AI literate. I don't think we need to become. Look, our job here is to help people. Is to basically create delightful products that are differentiated and provide a high amount of return for both the customer and the business here. And that's what we need to hand off to our teams and let them own the how. They're
Mhm.
Trust me, they're using AI to help them on delivery of the how. All right. I'm seeing a lot of Docker scripts and a lot of other scripts and a lot of other things happening that are all generated. So they're going to be owning the how with some AI assist. I think a lot of things we do administratively that tire us out, those are going to go away. I would imagine tools like ADO and Jira are going to have um, what would you call it? The ability just to put in a couple sentences and boom, out comes your user story that you modify. I think one thing on the horizon we're not aware of is the rise of AI agents here. All right, autonomous agents, where it won't be just at a task level. I mean, user stories. Looking at data here. That's at a task level. But these autonomous agents are going to be able to actually look at entire workflows. So, what if I wanted to look at an entire marketing campaign for a pharmaceutical company end to end? I could take that agent and tell it through, I'd still have to be the human mapping out the steps, but then let it walk through the steps and basically start creating for me scenarios that we could create synthetic data from and learn from.
Yeah. So I just want to add really quickly because Gilbert did ask in terms of the value proposition of our course. We do go into how to use some of the technology. Like I said, there is a bit of prompting because it's needed. You do need to learn how to best practices of prompts. I know Dean just went over high level some of them. But in terms of what product managers I think are going to be expected to do, Dean said it best. You have to become AI literate. You have to understand the possibilities offered and also the risks offered by this technology. But in the end, the company is going to be looking to the product manager to help them make decisions about where does this fit and what use cases. And so that's what our course is really going to help people do is think about what problems there are that are better fit for the use case of using AI as a solution. So that's what the course really does is using core product management skills and then marrying it with the possibility of AI. I'm going to move on because I think I want to talk about this a little bit. Bruce asked, I don't think we're going to do 5 top AI trends, but you mentioned autonomous agents. I think that absolutely is going to be a trend. I think
Yeah.
another trend, you kind of brought it up and I'll let you say another one, but I mentioned it earlier. I think there's going to be expectation of potentially doing some early prototypes without engineering's
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's going to, so in terms of learning, not just how to prompt, but how to prompt to code and use it to create MVPs that you could then go out and share with real human customers, I would say real human customers, that's probably going to be expected more of product.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's going to be one thing area to keep an eye on is on the processors. That's going to be able to help change it. I think we need to keep an eye on some of the cloud providers. All right,
Mm.
there's being some interesting moves there. I mean, think about it. A lot, those of you who are in finance and those of you who are in pharma or those of you in healthcare, you have a lot of restrictions with regards to legislation coming up here. And so I could see where a shop would want to use Azure as its interface into OpenAI or into its interface, or where companies don't want to get, they don't want to get locked down to one particular model. They might want to have different models they can go to, or at least, and so write their code in a way against those services in such a way where they're not locked in. So if something happens to Sam Altman and he gets fired again, you're not in a panic because you can switch over here. So I think there's that area that we're seeing in AI, some things being moved as well.
Mhm. So there's a lot of more questions. Thanks so much. I see there's a lot going on in chat of people also sharing resources. That's awesome. I think we will post on our LinkedIn as well. Just there's a lot of different AI resources out there for you to start learning. So we plan to do that as well. Lorden asked, when presenting the use case of implementing AI, what type of quantitative data should they present to provide the, why
Yeah.
this decision
Yeah.
might be good for us?
I think some of it's going to depend on the audience. All right. But at some point, you need to be able to speak, at, at some level of what does my market look like here? How much how many people will find it valuable enough that they're going to take money out of their wallets and put money into ours so we can afford to do this and keep growing? And I know that sounds a little utilitarian here, but at the end of the day, we are running businesses here. That's part of our job as strategic product managers here. So I think some of the data needs to be able, while some of the, I don't know if a chief financial officer is going to get really, all excited and happy by looking at various performance ratings. Yeah, the engineering team will appreciate that for sure. But that's not our job. Our job is to sit there and let the CEO and the CFO and the CPO understand, like, look, we're going to invest this much into building this product. We feel it's going to touch the lives and behaviors of this many people, and this is the return we'll get so we can keep serving these people.
Yeah. So it's Like
Yeah.
any
And
other
these,
decision, you need to have a framework that you bring
yeah,
to an executive.
yeah.
So I completely agree.
They're
I want to
not going to
answer.
be impressed. They're not going to be impressed with the technology.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, you might find that in some startups where they come in engineer first, but very quickly when they see their runway burning up, and I actually had a conversation with, I do all these meetups here, and I was talking to a meetup, on a meetup where they're actually showing a nascent product for beer brewers, and they were talking at the meetup about all the technology they're building. I'm like, do you have you at least found enough channel people,
Yeah.
involved who would buy this? Do you feel like I was like, well, we're going to show them once we have it built. 4 months later, they're out of runway. Okay.
Uh,
Then when I mean by out of money, that means they're out of, they have no more money, and they all have to go find different jobs. And so again, it was just sort of,
yeah.
one of those situations where, they fell in love with they fell in love with the solution and not the problem.
And
So,
Dean, whenever somebody comes to me with an idea, I always want to know, what's
yeah,
the potential here? How much is it going to cost? And what's the confidence level of both? And how do you know?
yes.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, quite
Is the
simply.
orange worth the squeeze?
Yes.
All right.
All right. We have time for one more question and then we'll wrap up. So Bruce has asked us a few times, so I'm gonna give him some airtime. It's similar to if we're going to let AI do all of the thinking for us, is that's a are PMs going to be lazy? Are they going to continue to be valuable? Or how do you avoid it? Because I think in the purpose of the PRFAQ is for the
Yeah.
product manager to help them crystallize
Yeah.
their thoughts. I mean, you do a lot of thinking when writing, so
Yeah.
I understand the question.
Yeah. So I think first of all, let's look at some MIT has some studies out, and I think Yale had some studies. There's a few studies that come out that say that generative AI is up leveling the C and the B players up to
Mm,
A minus players. So that we see there's already data that tells us that they are getting up leveled. Will it stop them? I would imagine some people are going to just, you know, use it and put it out there and glide by. It's going to it's already happening at other levels. Okay, so that's going to happen, but what we're really going to see is the rise of these strategic product managers, and we're going to get more pressure in our field to be able to sit there and take those results and first of all, get the right results from how we ask it questions. In other words, have I given it enough data? Haven't I given it enough right data here? Have I given enough data so I'm not part of the garbage in, garbage out machine? All right. That requires thinking. And then when I get it back, having the conversations and looking at it and vetting it, okay, that's going to take some thinking here. And then I have to figure out how to present it and who I have to present it to. Because, maybe I do have a chief financial officer who was a former engineer and he gets keyed up. So maybe I do have to throw her a few bones by putting in some technology. I've done that once or twice. I'm a little shameless in that way, but we all have. But again, I think we're going to have to keep thinking, especially the state of AI right now, we talk about a lot about prompt engineering now. I don't see that being a big thing 5 years from now. I think the interface is going to be very, very different 5 years
mhm.
from now.
Yeah, I agree. We have no idea where this is exactly going, but I agree
Mm.
it's going to be even more intuitive and just
Yeah.
you're going to be able to tell them the actions. Okay. Anyway, we can talk about this for hours, but I want to say thank you to Dean for taking us through such great, I think, just ideas and helping us frame a way in which we want to bring this back to our businesses. In terms of our upcoming courses, we told you it launched. We're offering everybody that joined us here as a thank you, $200 off our new AI course. The courses are taking place. First one's in April 1st and 2nd. I think it starts at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And we just have a great lineup for you with our other courses as well. Check them out on our website. We have a number of AI webinar and AI topics planned for you all upcoming starting in April. So also make sure to follow us on LinkedIn. We're going to be posting about all of the AI content coming out from 280 Group in the next few months. So stay tuned for that. And I hope to see some of you at our inaugural class. Bye,
All
everyone.
righty. Hey, see you later, and thanks for connecting. That was fun.
It was a lot of fun. Bye, guys.
Harry Dot. Yeah, Har, my best student. He was the guy with me with 7 legs while we were slugging it out. He took over when I left there.
Really? All
Yeah.
right. Gonna close this out and I'll see you